You should have just gotten a little memo and we are started. So good afternoon as of a minute ago. My name is Scott Christensen. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who joined us today online for AI Tools for Startup Communications. This workshop is a part of our ongoing Startup Fundamentals workshop series, which is offered by Ventures with collaboration from the Maryland Technology Enterprise Institute. To everyone attending the live session, please feel free to submit any questions you have using the Q&A function. These can be anonymous if you wish. This will be recorded and then it will later be posted on our Startup UMD YouTube channel. And I'm going to paste the link in the chat. Today we are joined by the founders at Aurelius. The first of which and the primary speaker will be Jordan Miles. He's the co-founder at Aurelius. He's a speech coach and works on strategic communications at Aurelius. He has a long history doing speech coaching and strategic communications, drawing on his experience as a startup co-founder, 15 years of teaching experience, and the completion of a master's degree in strategic communication at American University. So without, I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Jordan, and I'm going to spotlight you so everyone can see ya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's wonderful to be able to host this webinar with you, and I'm excited to share some information about AI tools for startup communication. So thanks everyone for attending. This is a topic that I'm really passionate about, and so I hope I can share some useful tricks, skills, and tips for you for your startup. So we'll start things off right away with just a very short agenda where we'll go through the welcome and intro. Presentation should be, I'm hoping, around 35 minutes, leaving plenty of time for Q&A and a wrap up. So first we'll get right into the introductions, and I'll let my partner, Isabel, quickly introduce herself first. For those of you who were able to catch her webinar 2 weeks ago, you may already know her. For those who haven't, I'll let her just do a brief introduction.
Thanks, Jordan. Hi, everyone. My name's Isabel Wen. I guess, in short, I started my career as a scientist, made a long, windy way to becoming a VC, and then left VC world. So now I'm just really excited to help people, kind of thread the loop of going from a technical person to speaking business talk to speaking to investors. And so Jordan and I work together and work with a lot of early stage startup founders doing pitch coaching, pitch refinement, and as well as some business strategy and getting some other stuff done. So really excited to have you guys join us today.
Nice. Thanks, Isabel. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you joining, and she'll be here to answer certain questions if need be. So briefly to introduce myself, I'm Jordan Miles, and I have my master's in strategic communications, but prior to that, I've worked as a speech coach. I've taught for over 15 years in a very wide variety of subjects, from language to business to sports. As it mentions, I did found and exit a business with a colleague, and it was actually an international business. At the time, I was living in China. So we were able to start a wholly owned foreign enterprise. And actually, we got lucky and sold it. Oh boy, I don't think it was more than 6 months away from COVID. So it was definitely a good time for us to have gotten out, and the market proved that later as well. And anyhow, I bring a lot of international experience and a lot of communications experience that I'm hoping I can share just a little slice of with you today. So then, to dive deeper into today's topics, we're going to start with just a very brief overview of AI, and then we'll talk a little bit about the tools of the trade. And then we'll really dive into what are some of the communication enhancements that startup founders can realize from using AI. We'll also touch briefly upon SEO, search engine optimization, and GEO, generative engine optimization, and kind of discuss what the differences are and why it's important to pay attention to both. And then to wrap things up, we'll go through the workflow of building an AI agent, and then we'll also demonstrate a simple communications agent that I've actually used to help an organization. Oh yeah, drop the poll. How do I do that?
I can add that for you. It will
Thanks, Scott.
come out shortly. Here we go.
I am, despite working with AI a lot, it would appear that it doesn't necessarily impact all of my other technical abilities. So yeah, if you can take a look at this poll, there's short questions. So I'd appreciate it if you can just kind of share your own personal feedback, which will certainly help us with kind of getting a better idea of what you're using now, how often you use it, as well.
Cool. So we're
Oh.
getting, I think we've got about half of participants, so we'll wait another minute.
Now I have to figure out where to find the poll results.
So it might be because you're presenting, you can't see it. So on my end, I'm seeing maybe, okay, 6 more people need to respond. But yeah, we're seeing a handful of startup founders, a couple of entrepreneur support organizations, um, future founders, some other, which I'm guessing are either, students or working at startups. A significant portion of the attendees have never used AI tools in their communication before, maybe about half. Equal number, have tried it once or twice, and similar have tried it and still do. How often do they currently use AI tools in their communications? It's pretty well spread between not at all, a couple times a year, and then similar amount, pretty much use it every week. And then Scott, I don't know if you can see the short answer responses, or I guess we'll see that when it closes for what kind of AI tools people are using right now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Isabel. So it's actually encouraging. I feel like even though not many people perhaps use it on a regular basis for communications, I'm hoping that after today, some of you will realize how even with a pretty rudimentary knowledge of AI, you're able to create and deploy. Oh, there's the polls. Create and deploy little mini AI agents that can help you in your day-to-day, save time, and allow you to focus more on growing your business. So let's move on. So just going over a really fast overview, I wanted to share a couple fast facts. AI has really proliferated across the entire world. And while, yes, more Generation Z and younger generations have taken it on faster, it's also spread across all demographics. We can see that ChatGPT, which is the most popular, has over 700 million active users every week. Last time I checked, apps like Gemini were over 400 million as well. And approximately 35% of the population use AI every day. And while there's been like a lot of debate about how much time using AI saves the average employee, even the most conservative estimates say 2 hours a week, and that's from the St. Louis Fed. Other more maybe hopeful estimates say 2 hours a day, but I guess it really depends on where you're working and what industry. Then specifically towards communications, they've shown that in marketing campaigns that use AI experience higher conversion rates. And that means they're able to get people to click on their ads, visit their web pages, and more interact with the organization. Now, with AI, there's often a lot of people will talk about the gains in efficiency that users can have. And while that is definitely true, I think we should also be aware of how AI can improve innovation. So at least on the efficiency standpoint, some of the areas that AI can really make your work faster is by automating or streamlining a workflow, um, perhaps by accelerating data analysis and reporting. One of AI's greatest abilities is being able to comb through unstructured data and create structured data out of it. You don't need to have, perfectly organized Excel spreadsheet or a transcript in order to pull information from that and organize it with AI. It can also improve certain technical processes like SEO. So there's a lot of things that AI can do, whether it's summarizing documents or perhaps making something where you're able to take a report and automatically create a short newsletter. It can make certain things happen more quickly. However, it's innovation that I would argue a lot of us should be more mindful about. Um, it's harder to achieve innovation with AI, but like anything, it just requires more practice. So when we think about how in communication space, AI can be used to increase or improve innovation, we think of areas like hyper-personalized content for enhanced marketing. For most of us, we can probably think of, 3 or 4 different populations who we would market to, whereas AI can get into a much more hyper-personalized form of marketing where they can simply process more data and know what are the correct pain points and what are the correct motivators to change an audience. Um, they're also using AI correctly, you can generate new strategic insights and predictions. And this will be something I'll kind of show you throughout the presentation today. So moving on, there's a ton of tools of the trade, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think a lot of reasons that people are sometimes hesitant to get involved with using AI is because it seems so vast. Um, the reality is, at least for me, I don't really bother using all of these different types of AI. You could, if you wanted to, if you wanted a specific AI for, slide decks, sure, you can use Gamma, but nowadays, as AIs continue to develop so rapidly, a lot of these functions can be held internally within some of the uh, primary AI chatbots. I'm thinking like ChatGPT, Claude, or Google. Personally, I use the Google Suite that comes with the Notebook LM, which I'm going to encourage everybody to use. Notebook LM is incredible and will be foundational to how you use AI for communications. Additionally, I use Gemini and Gems, which I will showcase later in the presentation. Personally, the reason why I use Google, a big part is that I can link everything with Google Drive. It's a faster process for me. It also links with like Google Sheets. Um, and to be honest, because I'm able to use a .edu email address, I'm also able to get the Google Suite for a very discounted price. So if anybody does also have a educational email address, I would definitely recommend taking advantage of the discounts available for the Google Suite. Oh, the word cloud. Whoops. I don't know if I just... Scott, you're a genius. Let's go back. Sorry about that. So return, I use the Google Suite, but you can use any of the tools that work best for you. So moving on, let's refocus and talk about how AI can enhance communications. And it can do it in three main buckets: connecting with customers, and does that through content generation, drafting, persona mapping, and social listening. It also helps with connecting with investors, whether that's through AI-powered research or tailored pitching. Really can be useful tools to help connect with the various investors that you're seeking money from. Finally, it's also useful connecting with the team and where you can build a knowledge base, end meeting bloat, and use transcripts. So each of these I'll go into a little bit more depth, starting with connecting with customers and content generation. So one of the things that we're going to show today is how AI can really speed up this process of content generation, from drafting and streamlining the entire process of posting online. So you can use AI to draft a press release, to draft emails or social media posts. And currently with AI, you're now able to add not just text, but also images, video, and audio. I don't know if anybody has seen like the improvements within AI video generation, but usually the most well-known example is, I should have added it, is of Will Smith eating spaghetti. Um, so if you go back and look at AI generated videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti, the earliest ones looked completely wrong. You could tell it was Will Smith eating spaghetti, but none of the features looked correct. All of the movements looked wrong. And now if you typed in that same prompt into Sora through Gemini, you'd get a video that would be, it would be hard sometimes to determine if it was real or fake. So being able to use AI to help generate little snippets of video or a picture can really be something that saves a tremendous amount of time and money. There's also content ideation, brainstorming, ideas, headlines, or slogans. I personally use AI all the time for titles. I feel like it provides excellent example titles that I can then either pick and choose from or rearrange or just select one of them that was better than I could think of in like multiple days. Talking about persona mapping and personalization, this is an area that I think offers a tremendous potential with AI and will really change how marketing occurs in the future. As AI is able to process tremendous amounts of data, it's able to use that data in ways to identify patterns and create actionable insights. The ideas of persona mapping and personalization is something that goes beyond demographics and starts, demographics will answer questions of where people are, how old they are, whereas psychographics will start to answer questions of what motivates people, what are people's pain points, what would prevent somebody from adopting a new task. Psychographics will really be the areas that determine behavior. And as you can look into psychographics, you're able to identify more specific patterns. And from that, you can get better marketing material. And finally, it's this idea of creating personas for audience segmentation. So in the world of marketing, there's no such thing as like an average person. As much as we like to think of the idea that there's, an average person who uses any product or service, as you look into data, you'll realize that, there is no single person, but it's actually, half a dozen or maybe a dozen different personas that break down into a grouping of even more specific individuals. And much like all of you guys starting a business, you will have different populations that you need to communicate with. And each of those populations will have a different way and style that you need to use. I always think the easiest example is that of a family where the way I would communicate to my brother would be very different than the way I would communicate to my grandmother. And being able to segment your audience, create these personas will maximize your marketing efforts so that you're speaking in a way that people understand. Last is social listening, which is a tool that you can easily use AI for. You can ask AI to share its perspective on an organization, and that can be a very rudimentary social listening tool that you can use to create a sentiment analysis and develop communication strategies based on. Now, with investors, we have one of the newer aspects of AI, which is AI-powered research. Personally, I'll use Gemini Deep Research. However, Copilot is actually a really good tool as well. The reason why Copilot is a really good tool is because it's built off of Bing search engine. So it's actually a very capable web miner and able to pull a lot of diverse information from diverse sources. So I'll use some of these AI-powered research tools to provide the characteristics of individual investors. So let's say if you're looking for an angel investor or a VC, those two different investors will have major differences in how you should pitch, how you should explain your problems and solutions. And using a tool like AI to help do that research will give you insights on how to modify your pitch. That's something I'll talk about in a minute. But not only can it be used for investor research, it can also be used for all types of market research. And as I mentioned, you can use this AI-powered research to really tailor your pitches. So creating a detailed investor guide can allow you to tailor your pitch, both the deck and the script, in a way that resonates better with your audience. Finally, there's connecting with the team. Even if you have a team of only 2 or 3 people, AI can really enhance how you connect together. And the first thing that I would bring up is creating a knowledge base. Now, this is something I'll explain more about later, but your knowledge base is really critical when using AI. I think a lot of people are familiar with the term hallucinate, where an AI will give you the wrong answer. A big part of that is because we often use very, very general AI, which will scour the entire internet, and large language models don't know what is a right or wrong answer. They base their responses on patterns. So if you ask a general question, it might look through the entire internet and not provide a good answer. A knowledge base, on the other hand, is when I would curate the information that I'm asking the AI to query from. So I have more control over the sources that the AI uses to answer my questions. And by creating a knowledge base with your team, you're increasing not only the range, but the depth of the sources that you add. But I would also add a tip: make sure you tag your sources. It also makes it easier to update. Your knowledge base is something that you will want to get used to regularly updating and making sure you have information that's valid and that's no longer not useful anymore. It can also end meeting bloat. AI can take meeting notes. It can break down individual tasks and create follow-up reminders. It can also, you can compile multiple days, weeks, or months of meeting notes together into a notebook, and you can query for obvious or non-obvious insights. We'll get to prompts later, but this phrase obvious and non-obvious insights is one that I use very frequently. And I'll share, there's a couple stories that I've found in this last area of using your meeting transcripts for communications that I would really like to highlight. Often in a less formal meeting, like on Zoom with business partners or a mentor, I find that sometimes you get the very best content from those informal meetings, but we often don't document them. So when I work with clients and we finish a Zoom, and let's say, for example, I'll ask them, to describe their motivations for getting into a business. They will do such a perfect job of explaining the story about why they got into that business. And then I'll compare, the story I just heard in the Zoom meeting with what I see on the website, and there's usually a big gap. And I find that when you document all of these meetings, you're able to pull content that can be very useful for a variety of different settings, whether it's website content or social media posts or refined messages to specific investors. Do not do not underestimate how useful these transcripts can be. It's a tremendous amount of unstructured data, and AI is a pro at turning unstructured data into structured data. So for a quick minute, I do want to talk about SEO and GEO. What are the differences and why it matters? So for CEO, search engine optimization is a phrase I'm sure most of us are familiar with. The primary goal of search engine optimization, as we may know, is to improve your search engine rankings and visibility. Websites that optimize search engine or SEO will be ones that almost always show in the very top of a Google search, for example. Whereas the primary goal for generative engine optimization, or GEO, is to actually optimize generative engines to enhance digital communication efforts. What does that mean? It basically means the primary goal is to make sure that large language models like ChatGPT give good answers. Now, in terms of their targets, SEO will traditionally target search engines like Google, whereas GEO will target generative AI models like ChatGPT. Mechanisms, SEO will optimize web pages, keywords, content structure, and technical aspects, whereas GEO will try to strategically influence AI through placement of earned, owned, and social media content. I'll explain this in a minute. And then for the metrics, we look for organic traffic, keyword rankings, and technical site health. And for GEO, it would be shaping AI's opinion or perception. So why does this matter to you? Simply put, the way that I explain it is as you're a new business or as you're growing, a lot of investors will sometimes do their initial research using AI. So they might ask a question of, is this organization, a good business? Is Aurelius a good organization? And depending on what AI will say, can obviously influence that person's first impression on that organization. What that means is, if, for example, you look up your organization and it has a bad reputation, I look up, is this university a good place to go? And it says no. That means that to properly optimize generative engine optimization, you would want to place content in earned, owned, and social media. Owned media being like news. And by doing that, you would shape AI's opinion of your organization. SEO can be done fairly quickly, whereas GEO will take a long amount of time. Because to actually shape AI's opinion, you first need to know how AI is making that opinion, and then kind of reverse engineer what sources it uses to create an opinion or perception, and then influence those sources. Danny Sullivan of Google Search, though, makes a really good point that using good SEO is good GEO. The way that AI is able to make these opinions or perceptions is through good SEO. If your website isn't indexed correctly, that's going to impact whether a large language model can create a good opinion or perception with limited knowledge.
Just want to throw in a quick question for you, Jordan, for some of the audience that doesn't know, what is earned media?
Sure. So I guess I should go back. So earned media would be like if you, let's say your organization was showcased on the news, like a news program were to do a story about your organization. That would be an example of earned media, where you're not paying for it, but you're still getting exposure to a larger audience. Often it's through news organizations.
Cool, thanks.
Absolutely. And yeah, if anybody has questions, feel free to share them. But right now, we're going to jump into how to build an AI agent workflow. And there's really 5 steps. And I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, mindful of time, and also because I want to show you how this works in a practical example. But when you're building an AI agent workflow, the first thing you want to do is define an essential question. An essential question will help you narrow your focus on significant variables and metrics. And you can really do this by starting to clearly define your problem or opportunity. I would always recommend, if you're trying to structure your question and having a hard time, you can use the 5 W's and 1 H. 5 W's being who, what, where, when, why, and how. So let's say like a very, very basic question would be, how can I get more people to like my cat online? So this would be a very simple question, but it will influence our next steps, which is creating a knowledge base. Now, when creating your knowledge base, there's an almighty principle, garbage in, garbage out. Essentially, what that means is if you're putting in poor sources that haven't been properly fact-checked, you should not expect good outputs to come out of it. So what that means you need to do is you will need to scour the internet for varied sources, whether that looks like survey data. Think of Pew, Gallup, Ipsos. You can use census data. Peer-reviewed journal articles. Look for Google Scholar articles, long-form news articles and AI-powered deep research or white papers. So these types of varied information sources will create your knowledge base. And if we're using the cat example, I might want to find information about what are the characteristics of people who like cats online, what type of cats, are there any examples that I can find where cats have become popular online and what was the reasons for it. And I would dump all of this information into a knowledge base. And make sure you check your sources before adding them, remembering that if you put something bad in, you're going to get something bad out. So once you've created your knowledge base, you'll want to test and consolidate it. And so what that means is you'll want to ask questions and fact check responses. And you'll specifically want to start asking questions to consolidate information related to your essential question. So if we're staying with why do people like online content with cats, you might ask your knowledge base, what are the different ways cats can be featured online? What are past instances where someone was able to get more people to like their cat online? What are trends that I can find about these past instances? These types of questions will help consolidate the information and give you an opportunity to make sure that your outputs are correct. After that, we'll create this little mini agent. So we'll gather consolidated information into a large mega document, and then we'll create a prompt that describes what the agent should do and how it should interact. Last but not least comes the time to test the agent. I promise I won't say garbage in, garbage out again, but it's something to remember. As we do these AI workflows, it's important to remember that you're almost never going to do something one time and succeed. You're going to have to constantly check, refine, and iterate. So through testing the agent, you're going to want to make sure that it's actually working as you intended and accept these imperfections because almost always you're going to need to modify your prompt or modify your consolidated documents early on. Now, right before we share the example, I want to talk quickly about prompting because prompting is really, it's an art and it's a science, and it's how you are guiding your large language model. So there's three parts of a successful prompt, and that is having a persona. So you're assigning a role to the LLM, saying something like you're a marketing expert. And then you're giving it a task. You're trying to define exactly what you want the LLM to do. Summarize this report, write an email, change the tone of this email. And then you're going to want to provide context or format. So any kind of relevant information. This is for, an investor audience or trying to specify how you want the output to look, whether it's in paragraph, bullet points, or table. There are more tips though, because it's not just having, persona, a task, and constraints, or rather context. You want to also use constraints. Sometimes you will get a result that's far too long or it doesn't give you enough options. And these are often because you haven't put something into your prompt that says, keep this to 100 words or give me 10 options. Generally speaking, you should use natural language. So write prompts as if you're talking to a person. I know some people who prefer voice prompting because it can be a little bit more forgiving if you make a grammatical mistake. And make sure that you iterate. Use follow-up prompts. You're constantly trying to refine your output, and that your best outputs will only come from repeating prompts with small modifications. If you're finding that you're getting circular answers, you may want to clear your chat history so that past responses are not impacting the current outputs. All right, so I promised we would get into an example. So the example that I'm going to share for you is an organization. It's a real organization called the Randolph Area Food Shelf. And this is in Vermont. And they provide food and personal care products to families in need. So this was a real life example. Because they're a volunteer organization, they really need more help with their media and social media outreach. And so their problem is that they weren't able to engage with the broader community to share information about what they need, or to be able to celebrate people who have given donations or volunteered in the past. So what they asked is to create a simple communications agent that the volunteers can use to create posts across different mediums. So a very simple, essential question would be, how can social media engagement be used to improve the Randolph Area Food Shelf's mission of providing food to the community? So we ask ourselves, what information would we need for this knowledge base? I'd have you pause for a second and try to think, what are the things that we would need to create a solid knowledge base? So when I built this, I was thinking, well, the first thing I need to know is more information about the Randolph Area Food Shelf. I need to get their website information. So in that respect, all I did was I went onto their website and I would copy entire pages and paste them into a Google Doc. And I did that through the whole website. I would look through and find previous online posts. So I'd look to see where have they posted and what was the language they used. And I would also finally get a list of what are their current needs and what were past needs. So who are people who've donated in the past, or where have volunteers been most helpful? This type of information can really help create the communications plan. And then I'd look for articles about best practices and drafting social media, and an overarching document that contains this essential question, data sources, insights, and key data findings. And this is an example of my Google Notebook sources. There weren't very many that were involved in creating this little mini agent, but they're mostly a ton of articles about best practices in drafting social media, a short document that's the essential question, Randolph Area Food Shelf's needs, and the Randolph Area Food Shelf website content. From there, with all of these sources, I've queried the notebook with 3 questions. The first was create an extensive analysis of best practices to increase engagement, awareness, and action. And then it was extensive breakdown of pain points, needs, and opportunities for the Randolph Area Food Shelf, and potential posts for Facebook, Instagram, a local forum, and newspaper ads. Okay. And then check the responses, verified that they're correct. From there, I took all of the responses to these 3 queries, and then I added them to a Word document. So this is a long Word document, but you can see all of the different tabs are here, and this was probably over 20 pages of information. So from this singular document, I'm now ready to create my agent. So taking that one large Word document, I'm going to add them to a gem, and I'll show you a gem in a moment. And then I'm going to add a strong prompt. So I mentioned before, with the prompt, you can see I've set a clear persona. I can tell them what the context is and what I want the output to be. Additionally, for this specific agent, I want to build in a way to interact so that when I prompt it, it just asks me what posts I need. And then when I clarify, it will give me 3 example posts that can be used by staff for choosing. So this is basically what the gem looks like. They're very simple and easily deployed. They just require a name. This is the prompt, and then this is the knowledge base. Whoops. So now let me show you. So if I type in here, hello, it should ask me what kind of post I need. So I would then say, we need more volunteers and are posting on from, let's say, Instagram. And from here, it should take a short amount of time before it's able to provide 3 example posts. From these example posts, I can, and you can see right here, it's actually doing the working, crafting. And then here would be the 3 posts. One being a human spotlight post, where they share not only what the caption is, but also a visual that can be used, an impact statistic post, and a specific action post. So each of these, you can just kind of check which one resonates the best with your audience and pick that, or you can ask it to reiterate and show 3 different types of posts. And so, yeah, as Isabel explained, through the Gemini, you go in through, there's these gems, so you can explore gems in the main chat. You go into this menu, explore gems. You can create new gems. And here you can see that you create a name. This would be your prompt, and this would be your knowledge base. So it's really, I understand it can be kind of a lot to take in, but I did want to share with you guys just a quick example of how it can all be put together. So I know that was a lot, and I'll quickly finalize everything with some tips and takeaways with some time for questions. First is find the AI tool that works best for you. Make sure you protect and cultivate your knowledge base, remembering garbage in, garbage out. Don't just be efficient, try to think of ways to innovate. Make sure you iterate your posts so that you don't become angry. You don't want your outputs to frustrate you. You want to always, if your outputs are frustrating, you should be thinking, how can I iterate and get the right result? And then last, don't lose your personal voice. I say agentify it. So much like I did with the food shelf, you will want to document your own personal voice and then have AI try to mimic or copy that voice. You don't want your content to sound generic like AI does. You're going to want to make sure it is more similar to the way that you write or speak. And so now we've got some time. If there's questions, I know that was a bit of a rush, but I'd be really happy to answer any kind of particular questions you might have, or if you want to see a different example, please let me know.
Yeah, so we got one really great question, which is some use cases for Notebook LLM.
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
What are some great use cases for Notebook LLM?
So Notebook LLM is, let's see, I use it in a variety of ways. So I'll use a notebook for, in particular, areas like persona mapping. So let's say our organization, Aurelius, we seek to help startup founders. But like if you look into that audience, who are startup founders? You know, are they young? Are they old? Are they men? Are they women? What is their socioeconomic background? I start just loading the notebook with all of that data because I don't know and I don't have the time to, spend a month digesting and researching it all individually. I'll find those data points, add them to a notebook, ask questions of the notebook saying, can you categorize startup founders into different personas? And so my notebook then would be the source of how I gather information that I'm confident in, that can better identify different audience segments and how to communicate in a way that resonates with them. I don't know where you saw that question. I just see
It's
the webinar.
it's because you're presenting. Another question is, how can I create my company's agent slash bot on ChatGPT?
So ChatGPT should have much of the same processes. I don't remember what the name of the gem equivalent is.
I think it's projects.
Is it projects? And they're really just as strong. I like, I would still say, even when using a project, I don't know if ChatGPT has changed more recently, but it's usually harder to create that notebook. So I would still have a notebook LM, which is your repository for all of the information, but then you can use ChatGPT instead of a gem to actually do that function as an agent. I know ChatGPT has incredible, I feel like in some ways the outputs of ChatGPT can be slightly better. Their visual displays look nicer, and their language can sometimes feel a little bit more natural.
Yes, I think so. I think kind of, what you're saying, Jordan, is like, for example, for this person's question, I assume it's something like a customer service agent kind of bot. So similarly, you can, I don't know about their sharing feature, but similarly with the projects or the Google Gem, or even Notebook LM kind of does something similar, but it's not the same interface. Um, but essentially, you can create documents that are like, this is our company's voice and brand, and you can upload like your current brochures, your website pages, blog articles you've written, and hopefully, at some point you would work with somebody who can help you refine that voice, so to speak. But if you already kind of have a sense of how you like to communicate in terms of tone, that's your company voice. You can upload that into your gem, your ChatGPT projects or Notebook LM, and then you
Yep.
can query it to create things for you in that voice. But for a company chat agent, you can then instead you can prompt it. So there's like a there's like one set of the ChatGPT projects where you're uploading documents and files. There's another portion where you're uploading a prompt to it so that it stores that prompt in its memory. So that instead of every time having to retell it, you are a chat agent for my company does this and that. It lives in that project, so it always remembers and it remembers how to respond. And you can also tell it this is the length of response you should have. This is the tone you should have. It should be friendly, upbeat, brief. It should ask questions. Here are some predetermined questions I want you to respond with. And you could also, optionally do here's some predetermined answers, something to that effect. So I'm hopeful that that answers your question.
I think it for customer service area can be incredible because you should have a tremendous amount of data of past interactions that you can use as a guide for future interactions, which is what LLMs are, best at. I see there's two other questions. So we take a notebook, use them as a knowledge base into the LLM, and that's correct. A big part is that you do want to constrain the data it pulls from. By building that knowledge base, you are being very intentful on selecting the information that you want the LLM to use. And then when you are confident with that knowledge, you're confident with those responses, you take that curated information to a project or a gem in order to constrain the data it pulls from and produce results that are repeatable. Now, Lillian asked about business, like protecting a patent. Now, that's really interesting. And I think AI can help in a lot of ways. So, number one, AI, you can make a notebook that is like your personal patent lawyer. Um, you would make your knowledge base just full of patent law, from maybe your state, federal patent law. You can find huge articles from Google Scholar. Um, and then you can ask your questions to the notebook. I mean, it's not something that you should use to replace a lawyer, but it can definitely help you saving a lot of time with that lawyer and being able to ask the right questions and knowing what are areas you might have no idea that the law pertain to, because the LLM can go through 10,000 pages like that. You're able to utilize that knowledge base more effectively. I would think it would be great for Isabel.
I was just going to say, I would caveat, be very careful about putting proprietary information into any AI. You can ask it general questions or things that would not be able to reverse engineer what you're doing. At least be very careful until you fully understand how your data is used
Yeah,
even there's some people who are hesitant that even if you pay for something like a LLM and they say don't train on your data. Some people are, skeptical. We're still in kind of, I would say, in the early Wild West days of AI, so just be cautious. But I think to Jordan's point, using it as a knowledge-based query. So for example, if you want to upload a book or another example like FDA regulations, everything you can find online, you can upload it in and you can just ask it instead of having, like you said, having to read all of that.
exactly. Well, thank you, everyone. I wish we had 2 hours. I feel like I can talk about this forever, but if you want to connect with us, here are our socials. Feel free to scan. And if you want to see Isabel's pitch 2 weeks ago, or I'm sorry, webinar about startup pitching, there's the link for that. And if you want to connect with us further, we would love to hear from you. And I really appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan, and Isabel. I learned a
Thank
lot.
you, Scott, and the University of Maryland for setting all of this up.
Absolutely. No, yeah, and you're right on time. I thought we had good time for questions. It was good stuff. And so just for the rest of everyone on the call, this will eventually be online. I've shared the link in the chat to the YouTube channel where this will be hosted. I've also highlighted another panel or another webinar we have coming up on November 6th by Silicon Valley Bank, talking about the markets and what are they looking like for those of you that are fundraising. And then we also have, a large slate of other webinars, and so we'd love to have you for those as well. I think that's probably it. So I think it's 101. Let's close the webinar. Thank you, Jordan and Isabel.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Scott.
Scott. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.